everyone! Welcome back to the Stitches and Scribbles channel. My name is Erin, and today I am starting a video that I had absolutely zero intention of doing, but that's what happens when you chaos craft. So, for those of you who've been following me for a while, you already know that I go to the Renaissance Fair every year if I can, usually multiple times a year. And I don't live super far from the Bristol Renaissance Fair in Wisconsin, so that's typically the one that I go to. And I ended up with a couple of times that work for me to go this year. By the time you're seeing this video, I will have already gone. And I told myself very firmly that I was not going to make any new Renaissance Fair pieces this year. I have plenty in my collection. I can mix and match stuff that I already have. I needed to take a year off from making new stuff, especially because it's a very busy summer. And then I thought about it a little bit too long and realized that there's a couple of fairly low time commitment projects that I could add to my Renaissance Fair wardrobe that would just kind of enhance some things I already have. So I'm not buying and making an entirely new costume. I'm just working with some stuff I have and making some new stuff. So here's the vision. I actually kind of have half the costume on already. So this shirt is a top that I originally got for teaching, just kind of as a more professional wear blouse. I've had a couple versions of it over the years and I now have it in like 5 different colors, but it actually works quite well for Ren Fair costumes because it's short sleeved but still kind of has the like oversized Ren Fair shirt look without being too much fabric or not wearable in everyday life. So good, solid, basic to have. But I liked this kind of brown color that I got a couple months ago, and I was kind of just looking at it, and then I realized that already in my closet I have an acorn necklace and I have hair sticks that have oak leaves on them. I have no idea if you could actually see that in the viewfinder. And I suddenly in my head popped this kind of vision of an oak leaf inspired Renaissance Fair costume. The other piece for the costume that I already have is this skirt that I had purchased from, I believe the brand is Scarlet Darkness on Amazon. Yep, Scarlet Darkness. It's this very flowy plaid skirt. It has pockets. It has lots of kind of like ruffly layers and fabric pieces hanging off of it. I also have this skirt in beige and black, and I've used it for Ren Fair costumes over the years. Don't fall off. There we go. But I wanted a plaid one because I actually wear them to work sometimes too, especially in the winter with like a long cardigan and like sweaters and stuff. So I wanted the plaid version to add a little bit more variety, but I realized that the plaid with this top was a good base for a Ren Fair costume. Here's where the extra pieces come in. I have decided as a person, I no longer like wearing stays or anything like that tightly laces up for Renaissance Fair. Despite the fact that I love the look, I don't feel comfortable wearing stuff like that, especially in the heat. So even though I have a black lace-up bodice that I wore for many years, I don't want to wear it with this costume. I'm afraid of it being too hot and too constricting. So I decided that a good kind of additional base piece to add to my Ren Fair wardrobe would be some sort of a crocheted black bodice. I'm toying with a couple ideas in my head at the moment. One would be to do kind of a wrap style top like I did last year for one of my pirate costumes. I did that one in a bright like Kelly green. And the other idea would be just to make kind of a standard bodice shaped piece. I'm not sure what I want to do yet. And then I also want to make another belt pouch. I made quite a few of these in the last couple years where I use granny square designs or motif designs and make kind of just a little belt pouch to hold like my wallet, my keys, and my phone and stuff. And it's a great way to add like kind of a theme to a costume without using the patterns or the themes in the clothing itself. So want to make a belt bag with like a crocheted oak leaf, maybe an acorn on it. And I also maybe would like to make some jewelry to go with all of this as well. So goal for today is to actually go to the craft store, which I haven't been in quite a while. I'm going to be going to Michael's today. I actually haven't been to Michael's since they kind of acquired some of Joann's stuff. So I'm a little curious what that's going to look like. But all I'm going in for is black cotton yarn to make my bodice, probably like the closest I can find to the Lily Sugar and Cream brand. I don't remember if Michael's actually carries that or not. But that's what I'm going for. And to kind of peruse the bead section and see if there's any like leaf shaped beads or acorn shaped beads, just to have some more options when it comes to starting the DIY process. So I think without further ado, I'm going to do that. Oh, I was going to show you yarn. For the belt pouch, I have scraps already that I'm going to use. So I have some black. I've had this in my stash forever. And then my other colors that I have are actually all leftover from my Paige the Python project, which I've been showing on YouTube Shorts for the last school year. So I already have scrap yarn for the belt pouch. It's really just the yarn for the bodice that I need because I don't have enough black cotton in my stash already. I do highly recommend, if you're going to crochet a Faire bodice, do it in cotton. Don't do it in acrylic. Acrylic will be so warm. But yeah, that is the reason why I am now headed to the craft store, even though I said I was going to try to avoid buying yarn whenever possible this year, and I said I wasn't going to make anything new for the Renaissance Fair. That clearly failed. Let's go to Michael's. Alright, I have returned from Michael's. I did a pretty good job of sticking to only what I said I was going to buy, but I did have one kind of bonus item that I got, but I think I am actually going to use it for this project as well. So first off, the yarn for the bodice that I was interested in, I ended up getting the Aunt Lydia's crochet thread in the Fashion 3 weight, which is a lace weight yarn, but it's not a weight 0 like the really thin crochet thread is. This is a weight 1. And I ended up picking this because I looked at the black cotton they had, which they had like a loops and thread version of the Lily Sugar and Cream yarn, and they had a mercerized cotton yarn, but the mercerized cotton yarn that was like a weight 1 or 2, maybe it was a 2. They didn't have enough for what I knew I wanted, and just kind of looking at the loops and thread yarn, it's labeled as a 4, which is like a pretty standard, but I realized that was going to give me a really thick final fabric, so I did end up going with a lighter weight yarn because of that, and I picked the crochet thread because they had a lot of it. So I got 5 balls, skeins, whatever these are, so that I would have enough. Then I also found a bag of wooden beads. I have some wood beads in my collection, but not a lot of variety. So I thought these would be fun for possibly adding final touches. I don't know if I'm going to use them for anything or not. I also found these little leaf charms, which are silver. None of them are specifically oak leaves, but they all have kind of a similar shape to them. And I got 2 packs to make some earrings or a necklace or something. I also picked up a crochet hook. Michael's now has the Susan Bates crochet hooks. I don't know if they did before, but they definitely borrowed Joann's way of displaying them. So got one of those in a size that I will be using for this project. And then the last thing I picked up was actually a book. This is Every Way with Granny Crochet, 50 Shapes in Classic Granny Stitch by Julia Madel. Or Medill, I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. And this book caught my eye because it truly goes through granny stitch motifs in every shape that you could possibly want. And even though I think I'm going to go with a square design for my back, for the back of the bodice that I'm working on, I thought it would be fun to add a little bit of pizzazz to it. So I'm going to do a circle into a square granny. I know the circle will be pretty small on the back and you might not even really notice it, but I decided to use this book because of that motif. Here's my thinking. I'm going to start with the bodice that I want to work on because I think that's going to be the biggest piece for this video and it's going to take the longest to do. I am planning on doing a wrap style sweater vest similar to the one I did last year, but I'm going to freehand this one instead of using a pattern, which is why I talked about doing the circle into square granny square as the back. So I think I'm going to crochet the back to the size I want it and then kind of work the two front panels so that they're big triangles and then have like ties that go around my waist. And I think that's going to be the plan. I feel like that's going to be a versatile Faire piece. Having things in solid black is always nice. And I think with how I envision this, this wouldn't be a piece that's not wearable for everyday life. Like I think I could throw it on over a t-shirt dress or even with like a button-up shirt potentially, depending on how this goes. We'll just have to see. But I'm very excited to start this project. So I'm going to dive right in, kind of put some of my supplies off to the side so that I have space to work and get to crocheting. Okay, jumping back on, it's been about a week, I believe, since the last clip I filmed, and in the span of that week was the 4th of July holiday weekend. I took my bodice vest thing with me absolutely everywhere, and actually just ended up finishing it. I have it on my costume hanger right now. I meant to film more clips as I went, but that's just not how it worked out. So I'm going to talk about the structure of it a little bit here on camera and then explain kind of how the rest of the video is going to go. So, started with that nice big granny square, which you saw, worked it until it was a little smaller than the width I wanted it to be. Then I started the front panels, and for the front panels, I just picked up stitches along the edge of the granny square and worked down, increasing every row, except I believe for the first two, just to give it a little bit of a shoulder kind of strap without any increases. Then I went back and did side panels. So there's panels here where again, I just picked up stitches from the back granny square and then connected them to the front panel. That's kind of why you can see a seam running along right there. Then I went to the edge of the entire piece since it was all connected and did kind of a little peplum edge where I just increased the granny stitches. Then I built in ties, and I like the granny stitch for this design because you can work the ties through the sides of the sweater. And right now I just have them tied in the back for on the hanger, but they are long enough that I can tie them wrapped all the way around and in front as well. Making sure I won't roll over the costume with my chair. Okay, going into the rest of the video. So we actually have guests who are going to be staying with us for about 3 weeks, which is very exciting. They're going to the Renaissance Fair with us, but it means that my ability to like talk to the camera and film will be very sporadic over the next couple weeks. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the general plan of projects so that whatever you see in like silent clips on camera makes sense. First of all, I have to roll my chair over to grab something. I grabbed this glass water bottle. Well, it's a glass bottle. I'm going to use it as a water bottle. And I think I'm going to use some of my leftover black cotton yarn to make a water bottle holder for it that can hang from my belt. Also, speaking of the leftover yarn, I ended up purchasing an additional 3 skeins of that Lydia's cotton thread yarn. 5 was definitely not enough, and I used, how many did I use? So I had 8 total and I have 1.5 left. So that means I used about 6.5, probably more than 6.5 skeins. I only have 1 full skein left. I did just wind them all into balls. But I'm going to use black to make a water bottle holder so that I have a place to put water during the Renaissance Fair. I also ended up getting some additional jewelry stuff. I don't know if you'll even be able to see it while it's still in the bag, but I found these little acorn charms. They're in kind of a brass color and a silver color. Get real up close there. There's the brass, and they have a little loop on top. And here is the silver. So I'm thinking I'm going to make a necklace with those and with the leaf charms that I got. And I think I actually maybe want to crochet the necklace and then just kind of add the beads and charms as I go, and possibly even make it so that it's like an adjustable piece. I'm still gonna wear this big acorn necklace as well, but I think I'll put it on a longer chain so that I kind of get the like layered look. And then that bag of scrap yarn that I had, I'm going to make probably an acorn shaped pouch if I can find a pattern for one, and a plain pouch with some oak leaves like on the ties. So that's the general plan. Behind me is my big bag of yarn that's going to be traveling with me while our guests are here. We're going to go do lots of sightseeing here in Wisconsin and in Illinois. So I grabbed a big bag to put all my yarn in so that I can just toss the whole thing in the car and work on it wherever we are. But I think that's kind of it for the project planning. So I'm just going to keep making stuff and give you clips as often as I can, but it might end up being that I just come back at the end of the video and talk through everything that I made, just because I don't know how many clips I'll be able to get over the next few weeks. But I do have some time today, so I'm going to jump into some more crafting. Okay, this is going to be a rather anticlimactic end to the video because we tried to go to the Renaissance Fair, but the day we went, there was a huge thunderstorm. It was absolutely pouring. We ended up stuck at the fair for about an hour and a half, sheltering under one of the little like picnic areas, just to stay out of the rain. And by the time the rain had let up a little bit, we checked the weather and saw it was still going to continue raining the rest of the day, even though it was lighter than the intense thunderstorm. But by then, like, everything was muddy. It was kind of hard to walk around because the paths were so wet. So we ended up going home, which meant I got no pictures in my costume. I did take one group photo with people at the beginning, but since it has other people in it, I'm not going to post it. But I did want to talk about the finished costume, which has now all been washed and cleaned post thunderstorm disaster. Because I did actually really love how the finished look turned out. I think there are some adjustments that I might make if I wear it again, but we'll just kind of see. Right now, the plan is to go to the Renaissance Fair 2 more times, but one of those times doesn't have a for sure date on it yet. And the other time that I'm definitely going, I'm going with friends, and we have kind of a group costume going on, so I won't be wearing this for that one, definitely. We'll see kind of what happens for the other day. I might be going with a different group of friends who may want to borrow costume pieces, so it's kind of up in the air. So even though I spent all this time on this costume, I might not actually get any pictures in it this year, which is kind of sad, but that's just how it goes with outdoor events. So first of all, let's talk about the base outfit itself, which I know I already showed in this video, but I loved how the vest fit. I think it looked very pretty with the skirt. Again, this is a floor length skirt. It just doesn't look like it because of how I have it on the hanger. Also, I think this vest is totally wearable for everyday outfits. I think it's super cute over a t-shirt dress. I really like how it ended up being constructed. I think it fit me very well. And I liked being able to customize the measurements as I went. So I think this was a really good method for creating a like wrap vest top. Let's talk about the purse. So this looked super cute on. The only thing I didn't love about it is because of the belt I chose, this part kind of was hitting a little too high on my waist. So I might try it with a different belt next time so that it sits a little bit lower so that I don't have that issue. But that was purely because of the belt that I chose. I did notice with this pattern that there were some issues with the stitch count as I was doing it. So I would say if you're doing this, it's not a beginner pattern. It's missing some key directions in certain steps. No fault to the creator. I know that my patterns probably aren't perfect either. So I think it's still worth it, but you do need to have some at least basic crochet knowledge before attempting it, because there are some steps that aren't spelled out as thoroughly as you would think they would need to be in a beginner pattern. So I would say pay more attention to the stitch count in the first few rounds than how many stitches it says to make, because I think in a couple places it was either forgetting to count the like chain 3 at the beginning of a row as a stitch, or it was including them where it shouldn't. So just keep that in mind while making this. This was a plenty big enough pouch for my phone, my wallet, keys, all that stuff. I actually intended to use it as my knitting bag. I was going to put a pair of socks I was working on in here. But again, with the rain, didn't quite work out as intended. I also think if you're going to make this, it says to attach the leaf right here. I would almost stitch it like somewhere on the back of the acorn so that it doesn't hang quite as low. I think I would have preferred it if it looked a little bit more like that, so you can resolve that by just stitching it in a different place than I did. My other DIYs, I made 2 pairs of earrings. So this was the first pair. Come on, camera, focus. So these were on some little silver hoops, and I used silver acorns, bronze acorns leaves, and little tiny wooden beads to make those. These are just lever back hoop earrings. And then I have double piercings, so I made a second pair as well. These are just some little dangly earrings covering my face so it focuses. Whoops. Somebody's texting me. And I used the same beads for these in just a slightly different arrangement. And these little kind of dangly charms came with the earrings as well. It was some pack of like decorative silver earrings. I forget if I got them at an in-person store or if I ordered them online. We're going to turn the phone off now so that it stops disrupting what I'm doing. I posted a TikTok today and I think it's getting some attention. So up next, the water bottle holder. So this did stretch as I was wearing it, so I probably didn't need to make it as long as I did, but I don't think it affected the look that much. This was great for holding the water bottle. Clearly I could fit a much bigger one in here if I wanted to. And I think these glass bottles that I ordered online were the perfect Faire appropriate water container. Any variation of these little water bottle bags is a great Faire costume edition. Highly recommend. And the last piece that I made was this crocheted necklace. I'm gonna try to cover my face again. So I just did a really long chain stitch, and every 10 stitches, I think, I put in one of my little charms. So these were all the leaf and acorn charms that I had shown previously. And I think that's it for the DIYs that I completed for this. I also made it super long, figuring that then it could be wrapped and tied as a bracelet or like in my hair at some point. So that's why I chose this design. I then also wore a leather cuff bracelet with the quote, "Not all those who wander are lost." And this is one that I've incorporated into a lot of Renaissance Fair costumes over the years. But that's going to be it for this video. Sorry to not have any kind of finished product photos. Hopefully if I go again, I'll be able to post some short videos and pictures on my other social media sites and here on YouTube. So keep a lookout for those. Again, because I have a planned costume for the only Ren Fair date that's for sure, that might be the only one that I post, but we'll just have to see. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this inspired you to make something crafty for your next costumed event, whatever that is. If you liked what you saw today, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below so you can be notified of all of my crafty content right here on YouTube. And if you'd like to see me on other social media sites, make sure you check the description box below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.